What is going on, everybody? It was a big game today, which, I mean, hey, maybe it wasn't some people's flavor. It wasn't ecstatic. It wasn't crazy, but the Bills got the job done, beating the New England Patriots 24-21. Jeremy Turner Montgomery can't make it to the show tonight, so I've acquired the services of these two gentlemen below me. Jay Spence, the king of Buffalo Rumblings. Jay Spence, thank you for joining us tonight, man. How you doing?
Anytime, man. Anytime. I'm all right. I'm better now than I was about 2-3 hours ago. I was very, very upset, but it's cool. I'm here.
Oh, yeah. And as usual, Mario Granada of Hashtag Sports. Mario, I couldn't get you on the Saturday Night Tailgate show last night because we couldn't get it to go. Had to pull the plug this week, but got you on the post-game show this time around. So it's a pleasure to have you as always, man.
I always love being on this show, and I'm pulling double duty tonight, so I'm already revved up and ready to go. So,
oh yeah, he has pre-game, and of course, it wouldn't be a Bills victory without Bucket Head Fred. Fred, you got the bucket hat ready?
Oh yeah, Bo. It's a tradition.
Special tradition here on the Cold Front Report. Every time the Bills win, we get Bucket Head Fred.
Yeah, so, I mean, what a game today. I mean, it's just another division game, grudge match, battle of the who wants the most. And I mean, it definitely was a grudge match, these guys. And luckily the Bills were able to squeak one out with a play by the defense of all, no less. I mean, defense finally stepped up, made a play. So.
Yep. Yeah. Let's start with the offensive side of the ball, because going into this game, I had a very big concern as to whether or not they were going to try and get this run game going when it's really had a failure to exist this far into the season up until this week. But They managed to get the run game going. They didn't air it out like I kind of felt like part of my expectation was that they were going to start throwing the ball all over the yard because that's the tendency of the Bills' offense this season. That's shown to be what they want to do. This week, they got the run game going. John Feliciano made his presence known. Spence, how are you feeling about the Bills' offense coming out of this performance?
To be honest, I'm encouraged because to this point, we know that Josh can throw the ball. We know that he can fling the ball around the field. So I didn't necessarily need to see that today. But what we haven't seen all season was our running backs and our running game show up the way they did today. So I'm encouraged. Like if our running game with Feliciano being, put into the offensive line, if we're going to look like this with our run game, listen, I'm excited going forward. If we can put those two things together at the same time, would be tough to beat, man. Would be tough to stop.
Right. Very efficient offense, to say the least. Mario?
Yeah, it was definitely refreshing to see the Buffalo Bills actually run the ball. Moss and Motor combining 28 carries for 167 yards for a 5.96 clip. I thought it was very interesting that finally we saw some adjustments by the offense. The EP system is one that it goes based on the defense that you're facing. And I saw real early that Belichick was imploring a 4-man rush with 7 defensive backs, not just linebackers, but defensive backs in the game, which happened to open up things for the Buffalo Bills. The guards were getting onto the second level. They were able to open up holes for Moss and Motor. And, that stat line is a result of it.
Right. Fred, what were your initial thoughts after this Bills offensive performance today?
I mean, like I said, I've been calling for today was something that we could look forward to for the remainder of the season, because I thought that Zach and Devin actually complemented each other very well in this game. And the fact is that the Patriots could not stop this running attack. And this is something that we've had all year. I don't know why we're just now starting to implement it, but I was happy to see that we finally got that. And this, again, we had 3 touchdowns today, and they're all rushing touchdowns. So that was also good to see, is that we're not just passing the ball all over, which we know that Josh can do it. Even though it was windy up there today and cold, Josh was throwing the ball well in warm-up. So I don't think it was a problem with the wind. I just think that this was the game plan. And like you just touched on, that Belichick set that up for us. I mean, he had all them extra DBs out there, so you had no choice but to run the ball.
Right. Now, Now, at the end of the point, you kind of alluded to how Josh, he had a good day today, but he wasn't really the focal point of the offense. And I feel like after this game, a lot of people, there's kind of two sides of the fence here, where people are kind of like, oh yeah, it was a good game. The Bills executed what they planned to execute coming into this game. That seemed apparent, considering both your running backs had 28 carries combined for over 160 yards. And that's the first time we've seen that this season. So I think it's fairly evident and pretty obvious that you can say that it was a plan to grind the ball out in this game. And a lot of people were not happy with the performance of Josh Allen today. They weren't happy with how I don't know. He kind of got reduced to almost in a game managing role in this game, given the offensive's plan to run the ball between the tackles and off tackle and just get the offensive running game in a rhythm. So Josh Allen wasn't really used out of necessity today, as you've seen him used in previous weeks. Now, Mario, what were your thoughts on the performance of the Bills quarterback today?
I thought he managed the game rather well. I thought he checked out of some plays that weren't very good. I thought that he was, even though he was 11 of 18, he was very efficient. He could have had a passing touchdown in there as well. And I just had to look up really quick the Kansas City game. When Kansas City played Buffalo, you saw a very un-Mahomes-like performance when he threw for 225. So everyone seems to harp a lot on the numbers of what Josh Allen was able to do today. But the biggest thing was they were giving him the run. And they were, like I said, they were putting 7 defensive backs on the field and forcing Josh to beat him with his arm. Okay, let's see if you can get it in the soft zones. Let's see if you can get for the first and second and third read. And the Buffalo Bills were keeping a tight end in most of those plays, doing traps, pulling Feliciano, doing a bunch of different things. And like I said, the guards were getting up to the second level. They were handling the defensive line. Lawrence Guy went out rather early, which helped the Bills. But I don't foresee that teams are going to play 7 defensive backs with 0 linebackers on the field after this performance today by Moss and Motor. Going, they both had 14 carries apiece, and like you said, for over 160. So what I liked about Moss and Motor, just to kind of divert from the point a little bit, was the fact that they were showing things that they don't normally do. Usually Moss is the guy, or Motor is the guy that goes outside, a little bit more outside the tackles, guard and tackle out there. And Moss is the guy that's going to pound it inside the guards. we saw them both do both of those things today very, very well, as well as Singletary going inside and, throwing blocks that haven't been seen in Buffalo since Fred Jackson. So I was really excited to see that as far as the offense today. And some of them games up in New England, if you want to go over the last 4 victories that New England had against Buffalo, Brady really was the game manager a lot of those times. He wasn't the difference. So that's the way it goes in the EP system sometimes. So you just got to take what you can get.
Right. Now, Fred, how did you feel about the performance of the Bills quarterback today?
I thought Josh took what the defense pretty much gave him. I mean, the only time I think that he made a mistake is when he threw that pass to Diggs, but I guess Diggs misread it, the route or something. They talked to each other on the sideline. But for the most part, yeah, I think Josh, he handled the game. I think he managed it well. I got no complaints on him. I mean, even though he didn't put up the numbers, even though he put up a pick, I mean, for the most part, he did what he had to do. And you got to remember, our starting center went down early in this game as well. So he adjusted to having Ryan Bates under center too, and didn't even skip a beat with Mitch Morris not being in there.
Spence?
Yeah, I completely agree with Fred. I feel like, like I said earlier, we know what we have in Josh this year. We know how much he's grown. We know what kind of quarterback and what type of offense we can have with our passing attack. It was important for us to see Zach Moss and Devin Singletary have a day today. And they did that combined. They had a very impressive day on the ground. And that's what we needed. So I'm very happy with Josh's play. I'm happy with the way that he led the offense, even though he didn't lead the offense with 300 yards passing and 4 touchdowns in the air. He led the offense by being efficient. He made good plays. He didn't turn the ball over besides the interception, like Fred just talked about, the miscommunication between he and Diggs. But for the most part, Josh played great, man. I was really impressed with him today, actually.
Right. I can't sit here and complain about Josh Allen not throwing up gaudy numbers when the last handful of weeks, all I've said on this platform and said is that all I want to see is the Bills rushing attack have some sort of sign of efficiency to it. And that was really the one piece of this offense that we hadn't seen up until this game. And it had been concerning because I felt like if you come into this game and you throw the ball more than 30 times, you're not going to win. Conditions regardless, because you're going to play right into Belichick's hand. You're going to get off script, and you're not going to have a winning formula to beat the New England Patriots. If you were going to beat the New England Patriots today, you are going to have a plan that was executed fairly similar or exactly what you did today. You handed it to your 2 young running backs 14 times apiece, and they both got over 80 yards, and you had a very strong rushing performance. While you didn't blow this team out, because I don't know why everybody's so concerned now. Because initially it was, we don't want Allen having to do everything. Well, now what? Do we really want Allen having to do everything? Because if Allen has to do everything, I don't know. That's not really sustainable. You're not going to have a sustained success with a quarterback who's the offensive success is reliant to that. When it's completely reliant to that. I don't think that's not a way to win football, or at least not the Bills' way to win football this season, in my opinion. So I think it was a pleasant surprise. I wouldn't say it was a surprise, but it was pleasant to see this rushing attack finally get its gears going. And I'm not concerned by Josh Allen having a game managing day because he's just stepped back. He took the back seat for once this season, and he just let the offense do its thing. And I'm happy to see that because we've been clamoring for it in weeks past.
Well, not only that, Clayton, but the thing is that there's too many weapons on this team right now this year to where Josh Allen doesn't have to do everything. So there's going to be games like this. I mean, there's way too many weapons on offense. You don't have to have Josh doing everything. This was a great game for him to hand the ball off to these young backs and let them get some playing time and put some numbers up. This is what we've been looking for. This is what we've been wanted. So you can't have both worlds. You can't have high passing numbers and high rushing numbers. It's not going to happen. You just got to have that balance, and I think we had that balance today.
Mario, you look like you got something you want to say.
I always have something I want to say, unfortunately.
He was ready.
Well, I mean, we saw that, and I'm sure that the dais right now that they'll agree in the fact that the Buffalo Bills defense has not played up to the standard that Buffalo is used to. I think we'll all agree to that. With Allen doing everything prior to today, you were still a 5-2 ball club, 3-0 in your division. So is it that daunting effect? I know you have to have more balance. That's what all the coaches preach. That's what all goes on. You want to have more balance as an offense. So they can't key in on one thing. And as many people want to say that Diggs is one of the most impactful players on this offense, I think it is Josh Allen. It has to be your quarterback. But all that being said, everything that he's done up until this point, they were a 5-2 team coming in today with him doing everything. Now, does he have to throw for 300 every game? No. I think Dallas kind of showed us that last year, the fact that Dak Prescott threw for almost 5,000 yards and they went 8-8. So the numbers really don't matter how many yards you're throwing for every game. But here's the thing that I want to ask you, gentlemen, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you think it boosted Buffalo's confidence, the fact that right after a score, the Patriots did an onside kick to keep the ball out of this offense's hands, even though they were running the ball and not throwing it all over the yard? Do you think that gave a modicum of confidence to this offense to say, hey, he doesn't want us on the field, so when we're there, let's destroy this. Let's try to just run the ball down their throat. Like, what's your guys' opinion on that?
Spence, you can take that.
Well, I think obviously anytime that you win against the team that has been the bully the whole time, it's a boost of confidence. And then to your point, as far as it's a difference as far as, okay, we need to keep the ball out of their hands. It's not something that we're used to teams trying to do. Now we're trying to keep the ball out of Josh Allen's hands. And it's like, wait, what? This is really our offense? So, yeah, I to that point, I agree that, it probably is a huge boost of confidence. But the issue, I guess, that I still kind of seem to have is that the combination of both sides we got to get this to come together at some point. There's no reason why in my mind, and I know we're not at that point of the show yet, but there's no reason why in my mind that we should only have won 24-21.
Brad?
I don't necessarily think it's that. I think the thing the Patriots were looking for a spark on their side of the offense anyways. I think that Belichick was just doing anything to get his team motivated. They just looked flat. So the onside kick, if they get that onside kick, now you got some momentum swinging towards the Patriots. But we were not caught off guard, and that's the difference in the special teams that we have this year in the past couple years of the special teams we've had. They were right on point. I mean, for them to pick that up, if they get that, then there's a momentum swing. But I just think it was Belichick looking for a spark on his team.
I didn't mind the call by Bill Belichick to try and catch the Bills off guard and get the ball back right there. And I thought it was very strategic. I thought part of it was because, think about it, the Bills got the ball back in that situation with a short field, and they ate up a ton of clock, even with a short field. They were 2 and 3 and 4 yards in the way until they finally punched it in the end zone with what I believe that was when they were in that quarterback draw. So they did eat up a ton of clock, and that's exactly why Bill Belichick wanted to get the ball back, so that he had a possession advantage in this game, so that when it came down to who had the ball last, and obviously the Patriots were in a position to try and either tie or win that game. So it turned out to the point where they didn't really need that, but they kind of just hurt themselves by giving the Bills favorable field position because you couldn't stop them. And the Bills also ate up a ton of clock and limited your possessions in that way. So I think it's much more of a testament to the fact that the Bills were executing the plan going into this game, that they were running the ball with efficiency, that they were keeping the chains moving with an efficient passing attack, with an efficient rushing attack. They were very, I wouldn't say well-rounded considering you only threw 18 pass attempts, but the ball was moving, the chains were moving, and the Bills had the Patriots on their heels. It felt like almost from the start in this one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just, this was a solid game for the Bills offense, I felt like, but on the defensive side of the ball, that's where everybody's concerns are really lying, if you will. And on that side of the ball, the first half, the Bills kind of kept everything under wraps. The Patriots really couldn't get much going. The rushing attack wasn't doing much aside from that first drive. The Bills defense was getting off the field. And then coming into the second half, that's really where the Patriots' halftime adjustments really kind of took fold. You saw them come to fruition as they went on to rush for, I believe, 188 rushing yards. And, they really kind of had their way in the second half, and they made the adjustments necessary to try and get something going on offense. And that's why you saw them only have 6 points in the first half and then come away with 21 in the end of the game. So, Spence, what were your thoughts about the Bills' halftime adjustments on the defensive side of the ball and where they may have went wrong or may not have went wrong?
I just feel like there were adjustments made, but I feel like the proper ones weren't made. The entire time, we still haven't had a complete game where we've stopped the run and the pass. The New England Patriots weren't going to tear us apart with the pass today. That just wasn't going to happen with the way Cam Newton has been playing since he's returned back from COVID, and really just this season period. He just hasn't looked like the same Cam, obviously. So there was an issue with him throwing to the right. There's an issue. It seems like, you know, some throws when he throws the ball, it just goes right into the dirt. So he wasn't going to tear us apart in the air. There's no reason why, you know, the guy, first of all, the one guy had 100 yards on 16 carries, I think 106 yards. Cam had like 58 yards. And then Burkhead had a small amount, but still, it's like they had almost 200 yards on the ground against us. That can't happen, man. Like, at some point, we really have to step up, not just for the second half. Like, same thing happened last week against the Jets. We played horribly in the first half where Frank Gore could average 5.5 yards a carry. Then the second half is like, okay, we play better, or we get a turnover to end the game. We have to figure out how to really just be a good defense. We still have all the good pieces there. I don't understand what we're not missing, or what we are missing, I should say.
Does it give you a vote of confidence, though, the fact that they are able to make adjustments at halftime and able to do certain things against offenses and shut them down somewhat?
Personally, no, because the times that they have done that and made those adjustments that it's worked, it's been against the Jets and the New England Patriots, who I get, again, they were the bullies. The New England Patriots have been the bullies, and it's a mental thing, but we're the better team. We should have completely destroyed the Patriots today, and last week we should have completely destroyed the New Jersey Jets.
Well, I mean, you're talking about a Patriots team that lost to Seattle by 5. So, and I know matchups are huge in the NFL, but they're not I don't think they were a pushover coming into this game. And a lot of people had them within one score as far as a prediction for this game.
Well, I don't think that they're a pushover by any means, but this week you're without Stephon Gilmore. You're also without Julian Edelman. So you're without your best weapons on both sides of the ball. There's no way in my mind your defense is still going to hold your like the defense kept their team in the game for the most part, like keeping it close. That should not have happened. You don't have Stephon Gilmore. I get that it was somewhat windy that they reported. From everything that I'm hearing from people in Buffalo, the weather wasn't as bad as they tried to report it to be. Stephon Diggs should have had a great day if Stephon Gilmore was out. To me, like, he had a decent day, and I get that he got injured. What was it, late third quarter or early fourth? So I understand like why he didn't finish the game. But listen, man, the same thing that I said about the Jets last week. At some point, we have to, like, the Kansas City Chiefs played the Jets today. They don't care that Greg Williams is a good defensive coordinator. They don't care that he's aggressive and he knows what he's doing. They showed up and they kicked their ass. And that's what we have to do sometimes as the better team. We have to line up against the other team, and we have to look them in the face and say, look, I'm better than you, and I'm going to show you. And we just haven't been able to do that. And we have the pieces. It's just it's a little frustrating that we just haven't been able to put that together with coaching and the talent that we have.
Well, you got a team that just won the Super Bowl and a team that hasn't even won a playoff game yet. I mean, you're gonna there's certain levels and steps that you have to ascend to before you get to that point. I mean, you got Andy Reid, who's probably one of the top 5 play callers of all time, against Brian Dable. And then you got Patrick Mahomes, who was able to learn underneath Alex Smith, and he has every single weapon in the world at his disposal there. And then you have Josh Allen, who has some weapons, and he's still trying to, this is Diggs' first year in the offense. It's Brown and Beasley's second year in the offense, and you have a shuffle among that offensive line where your center goes out. So I think there are a lot of other factors going on here today where, the Bills got the win. That's the bottom line. Would you like them to win by more? I understand that. I would love them to kill the Patriots being bullied all these years. However, certain things in the game dictate how the matchups work. And when they're playing 7 defensive backs, the smart thing is to run the ball. What happens when you run the ball is it shortens the game up. You're not afforded that many possessions. So they only had 10 possessions to the Patriots 9, probably for a reason for the onside kick, another reason for that. But in that retrospect, I think somebody even put it in the chat. They said, well, if Davis catches that ball, it's 28-21. Would that make you happier, or did you want to see like a 2-score game today?
Well, again, it's not even necessarily about the actual score. So, and I know it might come across as me saying like we're supposed to blow them out. Okay. I don't think that it was supposed to be 42-10, nothing like that. I don't think, what I'm saying is we could have won the game 21-14. Like we could have won it close, but the feeling wasn't dominance. Like when you watch that game today, there were times where I was sitting there, like in the fourth quarter, I'm like, man, I actually tweeted it. I'm like, if we lose this damn game, and I'm like, there's no way that we should lose this game. What I'm saying is we should have dominated. Now, if they got some garbage points at the end, so the score looks close, whatever. We dominated throughout the game. That's not what's been happening with the Buffalo Bills. And to your earlier point about there being levels like with the Chiefs, granted, they have won the Super Bowl the last year. I'm not saying that the Bills are there yet, but the point is we're the division leaders in the AFC East. We know that the New York Jets are not good. Adam Gase is a horrible coach to this point in his career. We know this. There's no reason why we shouldn't have been able to score touchdowns. This week, Bill Belichick, in my opinion, is one of the greatest, if not the greatest coach of all time. But there's no excuse for a team that doesn't have their best defensive defensive player of the year. They didn't have their number one wide receiver. And then, the shell of receivers that they had out there, the one guy had, I think, 8 targets or 10 targets, and he had, he didn't have a great day, but he had a frustrating day to where he was getting first downs on plays where we should have been able to get off the field. So I'm just saying we have to put it all together. I get it. A win is a win. We won this week. We won last week. At some point, we have to win because we're the better team and not because we got a turnover on the last drive of the game. Like we should have been put that game away. I think that's my point.
Well, I kind of understand where you're coming from, given your concerns. So really how I'm taking what you're saying is you're concerned with the lack of dominance, given the fact that the Patriots were as more one-dimensional this week than they are typically. Because don't get me wrong, I think the Patriots are a very one-dimensional team on the offensive side of the ball. They're a run-first team. They have their 3 running backs with Burkhead and Harris, and then they sprinkled Newton in there as well. And they didn't have Harry. They didn't have Edelman. And they had a practice squad wide receiving core out there catching passes. And the passing offense was still able to have, I wouldn't say a lot of success or even call it success, but they were still able to make plays when they needed to. Not all the time. Cam Newton did not look good today. That passing offense did not look good overall today. But the Bills' defense looked concerning, considering the fact that the Bills' defense, they got Levi Wallace back. Teron Johnson continues to do Teron Johnson things. And I didn't see Cam Newton throw it in Tre'Davious White's direction hardly at all today. Mm-hmm. So I understand your concern of the Bills' defense where you're running a run-first offense. You're facing a run-first offense, and you still cannot stop the run even in the second half. In the first half, you did kind of keep it under wraps. You did kind of force them to throw the ball where you saw Cam Newton making mistakes and just skipping the ball in front of his receivers and what have you. But in the second half, you saw the Patriots offense take control. That team didn't change at halftime. You're not facing different personnel coming out of the half. It was the same exact team. I just felt like the adjustments were far more so in favor. They made the necessary adjustments to get past that Bills defense and what they were doing in the first half that really combated their solid rushing attack. And I feel like that is a good concern. That is a huge concern of mine because that's been, the theme going through this season is where the Bills have had mistakes. It's come due to the fact of lack of adjustments, whether it's on the offensive side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball, or what have you. But the fact still remains, in my opinion, that they still need to acquire that one technique defensive tackle if you ever hope to see this run defense have any sort of consistency as far as stopping other teams go.
I think the biggest thing that I took from the second half is all the missed tackles on defense. We're missing way too many tackles, and this is not a Sean McDermott's defense. Those guys are normally sound on tackling, and usually their gap responsibilities are a lot better. This defense is just they're not making the plays. They're reaching with their arms. They're trying to one-arm tackle, and I don't know what's going on, but that is the biggest thing in this defense. I don't think that they're not executing. I just think that poor tackling right now is what's hurting this defense.
Mario,
I got PTSD because the last time we played practice squad wide receivers was Tennessee, and I was just remembering how awful that game was. You're just terrifying me out there. But I agree with you on the one technique, and we've talked about this quite a bit on the Saturday tailgate with Mookie, in the fact that it's like almost. What is that saying? It's like you don't know what you got till it's gone. I mean, Starr's absence in the middle there, even though a lot of people didn't like it, didn't have eye-popping numbers. He kept bodies off of the second-level guys, which is the guys that were making all the tackles. And when you have a banged-up Milano and a banged-up Edmonds, you have to try to do something to keep bodies off of those guys. And a lot of those things going on there. Butler wasn't active today, so that threw a wrench in everything. But it just seems around the league too that there's a lot of teams that are more banged up than usual. And I think not having a proper camp, not having a proper preseason, it really kind of hurt a lot of these teams, and the Bills are feeling the effects of that. I mean, Trey sat out a game. Tremaine was out. Milano was out. I mean, these are guys that are usually playing 100% of the snaps every single game. So obviously this defense is going to be affected with the cohesiveness.
And since we're talking about the defensive side of the ball, NFL Draft Diamonds reported like almost simultaneous to the conclusion of the game that the Bills did sign cornerback Daryl Worley. And Worley, he had his best years under McDermott. His 2 best seasons of his career were his first 2 seasons in the league. And, he had his stint with Carolina. He went to Oakland. James, I'm wondering from you specifically, do you think this is where we see Teron Johnson finally lose that nickel corner spot when Worley comes in there and maybe he gets acclimated quickly due to the system that he shined in this system? Do you think he comes in there and takes Teron Johnson's job?
I don't know, man. In a perfect world, yes. In a perfect world. But the thing is, Josh Norman's best years were under Sean McDermott. And to this point, prior to his injury again, we still haven't seen him perform well in this defense. So, like I said, in a perfect world, yeah, he'll come in and he'll challenge Johnson for his role and push him out and play better, and we'll see an improvement. But I can't say that I'm super, I'm not optimistic at this point right now.
Okay. Fred, what do you think of the addition of Daryl Worley?
I think he's just coming in as another depth player. I know that we're lacking a lot of depth in the corner position, so I don't see him coming in and taking anybody's job right away. But, to add that depth, I mean, we definitely need that. So,
Mario?
I have been completely scarred. The fact of, I'm getting beat up today. I'm completely scarred of the fact of the old Carolina regime. I mean, I've about had enough with plucking the Carolina pipeline. Klein did that for me today, so I'm pretty much done with that. Starr was a good addition. I understand that. You got Josh Norman, he's up there in age, and he hasn't been healthy. We saw how he performed when he was the number 1 corner, and it didn't look very, very well. He's his own corner. He can't really play man. So if you're not getting pressure from your front 4, one of the things you have to do is blitz. One of the things when you blitz, you have to play man behind it. And if you can't play man behind it, then it's a classic tale of the chicken or the egg. I mean, do you get more cornerback help because your front 4 is not generating pressure and you need guys that can cover, or do you get a guy that's a one technique in there to try to push the pocket? So, and typically in McDermott defenses, not Frazier, you don't have those animalistic ends out there that are going to get 10 sacks for you apiece. So by that rationale, him and Frazier being the cornerback whisperers and defensive back whisperers, they may go that route, but I'm pretty much over it, with the Carolina connections.
Yeah, I'm beyond over the Carolina connection, and you brought up the name that I was going to talk about next, because hopefully the Bills just signed this guy's replacement, because his feet are tied to cinder blocks, his head is always spinning, he doesn't know where he's going. It just AJ Klein, and Mario, I kind of want to touch on the Carolina connection since you brought it up, because AJ Klein's really what sold it for me too. I'm done. I'm fed up with the Carolina. You're giving this guy $6 million a year to run around and he's bad. He's actually really bad. He's probably one of the worst linebackers I've seen play for the Bills. Probably since Kelvin Shepard.
Oh, how dare you!
Wow.
The thing I'll say about Klein, though, Clayton. Here's the thing about Klein. And I think that's the general consensus of this coaching staff. I don't know. I'm just guessing. The fact that if they don't make a move, and I've said this to you before on the tailgate, if they don't make a move for a defensive player, they're getting Lee. Reports are they're signing Lee. I mean, he'll have a couple weeks to kind of get used to this defense, but they're not going to make a big splash at the defensive line because A, it admits their mistakes, and B, if they try to go that route, then they're saying that the pieces that are in place right now can't do it. Well, if they don't get a guy, then they're saying, listen, we have the pieces in place. They're just not making plays. And the one thing I will say about Klein is, yes, he's missing tackles, but he's in the position to make these tackles.
Yeah.
He's in the position. He's not out of position a lot. He's just not getting the job done. I understand that. But he's still in position. That has to say something about it. You know what I mean?
I mean,
It says that we need somebody with better ability to be in position.
Yeah.
That's what it says.
We
Because
need
if he's
better
in position,
tackling.
that means the coaching staff is doing their job. They're putting the players in the right positions to succeed. It just means that he's just not up to the task.
How bad is the guy behind him, though? I mean, that's what I want to say. If he's still getting trotted out there and he's still in position, he's not making plays.
We
let
Deion Lacey go, right?
Well, Deion Lacey ain't taking no defensive snaps, but to the point that you're making about them admitting mistakes, how about we do that? How about we admit a mistake? You paid Vernon Butler $8 million for 1 year of production when you could have easily done that with a guy you already had in your locker room with Jordan Phillips. But no, you're still hell-bent on bringing in Carolina guys. So you go get your Carolina guy who was a bust in the first round for that team, and now he's just an overpaid bum on this team. So I really don't understand the thought process of bringing in your guy. Like, I get it. I understand the morality behind it. I understand the point of emphasis behind it. Not for $6 million for A.J. Klein. If A.J. Klein wants to keep playing football in this league, he should take a pay cut and be glad he has a job and play for the Bills for $3 million. Not $6 million. Vernon Butler giving him $8 million. Well, I wasn't really on board with that to begin with. But, back to the point of this defense, they need to make a move. They really should. I hope they're not arrogant enough, and I hope they're not stubborn enough. And you know what? What I hope and what happens isn't often what happens. It isn't often, they don't correlate. So I really feel like I'm falling on the side of the fence of Mario, where I feel like they're not going to make a move because this front office is extremely stubborn. They don't like admitting mistakes. I mean, you can take plenty of players as a case in point for this point. Like, look at Cody Ford, how they continue to trot him out there, even though he's a failed experiment at 3 different positions. Look at Trent Murphy, how they just force feed him into the defense, even though you should probably be giving the snaps to AJ Epinesa. There are countless examples of them doing just that on this football team, just being overly stubborn and not giving guys opportunities or giving guys too many opportunities to fail. And, I quite frankly, I'm a little over it, but this is going to continue to go on as these guys are still in charge.
And the thing is that we don't need to keep adding Panther players to this team. Okay, I can understand in your first year you want to get some guys in there familiar with your defense, your play calling, and stuff like that. But this is year 3. All right, you don't need to keep adding these Panther players. All right, you can bring in your own guys from different teams to help build this team up. You don't have to have the same ones coming from the Panthers. I'm definitely agreeing with you guys that I think that experiment should be squashed.
Yeah, I don't know. It might. Hopefully, Daryl Worley makes me change my tune. But until they pulled Luke Kuechly out of retirement, I'm pretty much done with it. Until that happens, miss me with it. I'm over it.
There it is. There's the phrase. I'm laughing because Spence and I are in the chat, and Spence was talking about can we stop the moving of Edmonds to the outside? And for a couple of years, I think Paul and I were kind of touting that a little bit on #sports, and I took my foot off the gas with that point. And while I think he would be an amazing outside linebacker, it's not. They're hell bent on him being a middle linebacker. He's been the leading tackler of this team for 2 years. Leave him in there. Let the kid learn. He's still 16, 17 years old. Let him freaking learn in there. I mean, let him do it. I think he's more than capable. He gives you a piece at middle linebacker that not a lot of teams have at that size, that range, that speed, that athleticism. You're not going to find that around the league anywhere. So let the kid learn, and then he's going to be fine. Just you got to be patient.
There's just a ton of people saying he's been a liability or he's not in great positions. The thing is, like you just mentioned about AJ Klein, he's been in great position. The issue is for him, he's still injured. And if you can't tell, just watch him. The kid is still injured. He's a great player though. He's smart. I trust Lorenzo Alexander, who was on the field with those guys last year. He thinks very highly of him. And, at this point, he doesn't have to say anything positive just to be kind. At this point, he's very honest and he's candid, as you all know. Listen, I think the kid he's in good position. He makes great plays. Like you said, he's been the leading tackler for 2 seasons now. Leave him there.
Yeah, the thing about I don't want to underscore how much an injury is for a middle linebacker who doesn't have a defensive tackle taking bodies off of him. So it's not that he's just trying to, get into position to try to make, tackles on the ball carrier, why this run defense is suffering a little bit now. He is hurt trying to shed a 350-pound man and then try to make a tackle on a running back who's coming at him like the likes of Jacobs and Henry. So, yeah. I mean, I think we just need to take our foot off the gas pedal with this kid and the fact that he's still playing through injury where Milano has been out for a few games and he's been hurt too. So our linebacking core, those guys played 100% of the snaps last year. And, we always said if these guys go down, we're going to be in trouble. Well, we're there. We are there. So I think once he starts to heal a little bit more, he's going to – and you get a one technique, as Clayton echoed, the fact that if you get one technique in there to keep some bodies off of him, it's going to be fine. You're going to see the Edmonds, who was the leading tackler of your team for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, one bright spot is that we did see some pressure coming from Harrison Phillips and Ed Oliver today, so that was good to see. I mean, they were finally getting in there off, on the defensive line. So, I mean, I know it didn't help that much, but I mean, they were still getting some pressure. But like you say, we do need that big body.
Yeah, and speaking of the trenches, I want to shift gears back to John Feliciano, because I can't just simply gloss over it. I can't glaze over it, because I have gone on record saying that Quentin Spain was the best guard on the team. Well, to hell with being the best guard on the team, because John Feliciano might be the best interior offensive lineman on the team. So from guard to guard, he can play center too, folks, because he came in there as soon as Mitch Morse, which I felt like it was the first play of the game. He comes out with a concussion. It's really rough. His 5th concussion of his career. I hope he's doing well, and I hope it's quick, speedy recovery and it's not severe. But John Feliciano came in there, and he took 2 guys to his right and left that looked like they were lost last week, and they've been lost ever since they've stepped on that field, that being Brian Winters and Ike Bacher. And these guys paved the way for the Bills' rushing attack, and ultimately what won them the football game was the efficiency of the Bills' rushing attack. So Feliciano today, Mario, you look so excited to talk about it. What did you think about Mongo in his return?
Mongo Feliciano. How dare you spit on the great name of Mongo Feliciano as far as the best interior lineman. Sorry, my phone thing went out of focus real quick. But I think that, I would have loved the combination of Bates at center and Mongo at left guard. I think that's a stronger combination than Mongo and Bodiger. But that's a discussion for another day. You're talking about a guy who the reason why he's on this team is familiarity with OG Bobby Johnson in this offense. And when Morse went down with his 4th concussion last year, Feliciano was the guy, not it wasn't Long. It was Feliciano that went to center and was making all the line calls, getting everybody where they needed to go. And he was surrounded by Spain, and everything that went on last year. And then when Morse was ended up healthy, obviously you had Spain and Feliciano and Morse in the middle, which just gave you a formidable lineup. Mongo knows everything and all the intricacies of all the line calls and everything in there. So he can get guys like Bodiger and Winters where they need to go. It's weird that the $8 million difference that you have between Mongo and Morse is going to have to come up next year, where you re-sign Feliciano when he was just supposed to be a stopgap for you so all these other younger guys can come up in there. But now he's proven to be a force in there. The offensive line had their best rushing day of the season, and it was all quarterback, quote unquote, by John Feliciano up there. And this guy just does so many things for your offensive line, getting guys where they need to go, calling out protections, doing the little things. I remember the first series when Bates had to come in and Mongo was there. They did a stunt, and Bates and Feliciano picked it up perfectly. And I think Allen hit Beasley for a first down catch on that first drive. So it was just amazing to see, and I can't wait. I mean, if Ford comes back, I think Ford will take Bodiger. So what you're going to probably see coming up is going to be Dawkins, Ford, Feliciano, Winters, and Williams as the line, depending on any difference or change.
Spence, what were your thoughts of Mongo and his return? Oh, I'm happy. I was the happiest guy to see him back on that field. He's a dog, man, and he pushes people around and he just doesn't care, and I love it. And that's what we've needed. That's the kind of guy that we need for Zach Moss to have great, good or great plays like we got to see today. Same thing with Singletary. We just didn't see the same type of energy across our offensive line for our run game to wake up. And man, I was ecstatic today. That was one of the bright spots, Feliciano, for me.
Right. Fred?
Yeah, absolutely. Seeing him pull, I mean, he picked up Moss and threw him in the end zone pretty much on himself. So yeah, it was great to see him back out there. I know the injury early on in the season before the season started, but yeah, this guy he just brings that attitude and it changes the offensive line the way that they play, and a lot of it was him, So yeah, it was great to see he's back healthy and he's back out there.
I cannot believe the amount of crow I'm eating this week. I really can't. Like, if I have said something to dismiss anybody on this team, it's pretty much just a serving of crow. I've got 3 of it now. I've got Feliciano, and I've got Brian Dable adjusting his game plan to finally get this running game going, which I can't come on here and not acknowledge that, because Brian Dable's game plan today did work. Brian Dable's game plan today I was a huge fan of, because I said right on the round table last week that I believe that that should be what they do in this game. They should run the ball 30 times with their 2 young running backs and grind it out and try and win this game on the ground. But I felt like they were going to air it out and try and spread this offense out and keep throwing the ball on vertical routes and trying to get their passing game going. But they didn't, and they did what I thought they should do. And I was a huge fan of it. Not to mention Justin Zimmer, who, I mean, to be fair, let's not take the things I say out of context. I just didn't say he was the ultimate solution to the one technique problem, but man, did he come up big today. That forced fumble on Cam Newton to seal that game. The defense concerned me on that last drive? Absolutely. Newton was driving through them like hot butter. Yep. That's what it was. And, Zimmer came in there and he made a play that needed to be made. And I don't think there's any debate as to whether or not he's going to get cut to the practice squad or re-signed or what have you, because, hey, after that play today, that kid definitely has earned his spot. Spence, how did you feel coming out of this game about young defensive tackle Justin Zimmer?
To be honest, I was asked this earlier, and I want to go back and rewatch the game just because, it's like I know he made a great play at the end there, and it seems like right now all the love is going to just be given to him because he made that play, which it should be. He helped to seal the game, so it was a huge play. But I just don't. I just want to be careful with giving him as much praise as we are. I didn't see a great performance throughout the entire game or most of the game. I just saw. That on that last drive, he made that play, and it was big for us. He made a couple plays that were pretty good, but yeah, I just want to watch before I give him too much praise.
Mario,
I thought he had a very pedestrian day. I didn't think he flashed a lot of things in there, but like the same thing with Star Lotulelei. If he's your one technique, you're not going to really hear much about him. All you're going to do is you're going to hear Edmonds and Milano's name the whole time. So the fact that they really weren't stopping the run a whole lot, obviously to the tune of 188 yards with the backfield combination and Cam Newton, the guy was a practice squad guy for a reason. He's not going to be highly touted as one of those guys, but he's going to have a motor that's going to go every day because, as you say many times, Clayton, he's playing for his job. You're playing for your job. You're going to play when you're in a contract year playing for your job, you're playing a whole different level of football. So, the guy deserved to get a couple more looks. He definitely fills that rotational front there, which was vacated. Obviously, you didn't have Butler today, so you actually needed Zimmer to play a few more snaps in there today. So it's I'm meh about it. You know what I mean? So I'm not excited, but I'm not saying the guy should get cut and put on the practice squad again. So,
Fred.
Yeah, no, Zimmer, he played well. I mean, he made a couple of plays, but none bigger than the one that he made at the end of the game. He was in the right spot. He punched the ball out. Dean Marlowe was there to pick it. But yeah, I mean, this guy, he works hard. He's got a high motor. But yeah, I mean, a play like that's probably going to help keep him around a little bit longer. So,
I hate it when I hate being objective. I just, this is why I can't have any fun. This is why, I'd love to be on the bandwagon saying Justin Zimmer's this, Justin Zimmer's that, but he simply isn't, because, to the point that both Spence and Mario said. Spence said, I got to watch the tape. And Mario said I was mad.
I was trying to coach talk you. I was trying to be nice. And he was just like, no, it was pedestrian.
He gave you the McDermott talk.
Well, I watched it, and it didn't look too pretty when you had the combination of Harrison Phillips and Justin Zimmer out there in the second half. When the Patriots were running up and down the field on the Bills with their rushing attack there in the second half, more times than not, That's the combination you had in there at defensive tackle. Ed Oliver, I thought, played out of his mind today. Quentin Jefferson, I thought he had a good game today. But both of those guys, Harrison Phillips and Justin Zimmer, aside from that one forced fumble, which, I mean, ultimately sealed the game and won you the game. I mean, good for you. But he did not play well today, I didn't think. I thought he got pushed around similar to the way that he did against every other team that he's lined up against. I'm out on Justin Zimmer. I'm out on him being any type of solution. I understand he forced the fumble, but realistically, you get the defensive tackle you should. That guy is not on the team. That's just how I feel about it. But hey, I mean, he had a solid play. He was clutch today. He was.
If you guys are hockey fans, I equate Zimmer and Phillips as like the third line.
Yeah,
like they're the third line player. You try to just don't give up a power play penalty.
Right.
Don't give up a power play. Just try to hold them for a little bit to get the first line back out there again.
Yeah, let them get rested. Keep everything in front of you. Don't get behind you.
Brutal. I know. I'm sorry, but that's to Clayton's point. I mean, that's nothing flashy, and usually playing in the trenches isn't. But they're not going to be the guys that are on 3rd and 4 going to get that push. And if the other team tries to throw the ball, they're not going to get the push into the quarterback's face. That's reserved for Jefferson and Ed Oliver. So. You know, that's what we have right now. That's what the Buffalo Bills have to deal with right now. And is there anything changing it? No. Do they have the cap to try to get another guy? I don't think so. So that's what they have.
They got to figure something out, though, because for starters, and I know I mentioned it earlier, if Kansas City can, or it may have been on the chop up, if Kansas City can extend, Mahomes and Jones with, I think they had $20 in cap space coming into the season. And they were able to do all of this stuff that they're doing. The Bills should be able to figure out something with a couple of $1 million in cap space. I just don't get how this imaginary cap works. I don't get it.
Well, you can restructure and extend guys. That's what they did with They did that with Hughes. They extended him a couple more years because they saw a lot of pass rushers going to be on the block and garner a lot of money. So they extended him early, and they can always do a bunch of things. But when you see the contracts that are coming up around the horizon, I mean, possibly Milano, you got Allen, you got Edmonds, you got Oliver, a lot of these other guys, maybe the offensive linemen. It's going to be kind of tough with Ford, obviously, if they decide to keep him. It's going to be tough, but I mean, obviously you can work around the cap. I mean, Mickey Loomis down in New Orleans, I don't think he owns a calculator. He's kept Drew Brees for so many years. You talk about Arthur Blank in Atlanta, the top 5 contracts take 80% of their cap. So, I mean, there's ways to work around it, but I just don't see them making a huge splash, especially because one of the things you're going to have to do to make a huge splash is give up draft picks, and Bean covets those draft picks so much. So, we'll have to see about what happens by was it Tuesday at 4 or Tuesday at noon is the deadline?
Tuesday at
4, I believe. Yep.
4 o'clock. Okay. I just don't see a big name. I just see a guy that's a rotational guy. Because like I said earlier with Klein's in position to make plays. Edmonds is in position to make plays. These guys are just not making the plays. And if the defense believes that, all right, all we have to do is clean up a few things that we're not doing, and we hold a guy to a 3-yard gain instead of an 8-yard gain, well, they're not going to make any changes.
And then you're right, though, too. And then, Bean is not going to give up draft picks for any guy. He treats them acquire someone off another team is to give up draft picks, and I don't see him doing that.
I hate talking about Brandon Bean trading. I hate it.
What'd you think of the comment by Daniel Garis? What about Dontre Poe?
Dontre Poe, I think Dontre Poe is a Dontre no. That's what I think. We really want the 330-pound guy who hasn't really been relevant since he left Atlanta, and he has back issues, and get him for the veteran minimum. Yeah, I'll take Marcel Darius in my captain hat, please. That's what I'll that if people want to laugh at and snoot about Marcel Darius, which I mean, in all fairness, it's kind of a joke. It's kind of not. They need a guy like Marcel Darius, and when I say they should sign Marcel Darius, people kind of snicker and joke and make their little stabs at Darius, and it's always fun. But Cody Wells wants to know thoughts on Darren Lee coming in. Now I know I have a lot of good things to say, but Fred, I want to hear from you first. What do you think about the Bills adding possibly that missing piece of their linebacker core, considering A.J. Klein looks like crap?
I think it's a great move by the Bills. Hopefully that we do sign this guy, bring him in here. It's going to be another big body, and it's going to be someone that's got a high motor as well. So he's going to complement what we already have, and this is probably somebody that we need. It's a physical presence like this guy. So I'm all for this move.
Mario, I know Paul. He kind of predicted it. I asked him for the lotto numbers. He didn't text me. He's a hard guy to get. He's hard to get to nowadays, considering he predicted this move. But how do you feel about Darren Lee getting plugged into this defense?
He doesn't even use the lottery numbers for himself. That's how crazy that guy is. No, Lee. I think he predicted. I mean, he mentioned a few guys on an episode that we had previously, and Lee was one of those about a week ago. And it fills a role that you didn't address in free agency and you didn't address in the draft. Was the fact that or the only thing in free agency that they did address was Klein. So you had Milano, you got Klein, you got special teamer Makevich, you got Phillips, Delshon Phillips, and you have Dotson, and you got a couple of these guys that. All right, Lee is interesting in the fact that he's a guy who needs to play to get his next contract. He's a guy that you're going to get a guy who's going to run through a wall for you if you sign him or when you sign him, and the fact that I'm playing for my next contract because the tape that I put out in Kansas City and the tape that I put out in New York was awful. I want to still be a football player. I want to still remain in this league. I still need another deal. I'm going to do whatever this coaching staff wants me to do in order to play. And he does give you an upgrade over Klein, but I'm not sure what kind of Lee we're going to get. And because he wasn't putting out very good tape, he couldn't make the team in Kansas City. I'm not sure what kind of player we're going to get other than a quality depth signing for Milano and Edmonds if you need it.
Spence.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I think obviously, like we all just mentioned, he's an upgrade over AJ Klein. But I guess for me, the passing defense has been an issue at times, but for me, I'm really still just my biggest concern is that rushing attack, and I don't think Lee really helps us improve in that area. So for me, I'm like meh. I'm not really too. It doesn't move the needle for me either way.
Okay, all right. See, it doesn't because I feel I agree with both of you, but my real thing is if they do what they should do and get their one technique defensive tackle, I think Darren Lee is going to be nuts in this defense. I really do. If you can get a one technique defensive tackle, so to keep the bodies off of your linebackers, so Edmonds can do his thing, Milano can do his thing when he's back and fully healthy, you have the availability to run your base defense now. You really do. You don't have to show your card. What's so funny, Mario?
I keep laughing because it all hinges on the one tech.
It does.
If you're saying to me, listen, you keep burning the steak, and then and my suggestion is, I'll switch pans. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, you got to stop putting the steak on there for 20 minutes. That's why you're burning everything. You need the one technique. I don't care what linebackers you get.
And that's what I said. It just doesn't move the needle for me. Like regardless if he comes in here and he could be the second coming of whoever. Like I don't care who you want to put that. Like what name you want to put there. We need somebody to stop the run. Like we need that.
I love the depth. Don't get me wrong. I love the depth.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic.
If you care that middle, it's not going to matter.
Yep.
You said the second coming of whoever. I think he has the potential of being the second coming of Zach Brown for this defense. I really think he does because you get the description that Mario gave, a guy that's playing for his next contract. He kind of has some iffy film elsewhere. You don't really know where his career is going. He's playing for his spot in the league right now. He bounced from two different teams his first two seasons, and now he didn't stick on a team. And he finally gets a job after, half a season of sitting around. I believe he was suspended the first 4 games, if I remember right.
Yep.
So he finally gets his opportunity. And, you look at the Bills linebacker situation and, we have Milano coming in on third downs, it looks like these last 2 games. Hopefully he progresses and gets his snaps back. But he has an opportunity on a Bills defense to really, thrive. And you look at his prototype, a 4.4. He ran a 4.4 40. He's 230 pounds. He fits the mold of what the Bills want at their linebacker position. This guy could come in here if he can make some plays and he can earn himself a spot, earn himself a role on the defense, and take just please, for the love of God, take some of the snaps from AJ Klein and have some sort of body that can tackle and make the plays, because AJ Klein is in the spot. He's just not making the plays like Mario previously mentioned. I think Darren Lee is going to be one hell of a football player for this defense. I like his versatility. I like his contributions in pass defense as well as run defense. So I think there is some potential there, but I also agree with the both of you that any success on this defense from the front or the back or the linebackers is largely hinges on the fact that they need a one technique defensive tackle. And it really hinges on the fact if Brandon Beane can admit to making mistakes or not. That's really what it is.
I think the one of the things that the Buffalo Bills could do, and I haven't seen them do it because they primarily run a 4-man front, but they tend to mix things in. If the coverage is if the coverage on the back end was a little bit better, could you see them going not to a 5-man front? I'm not saying that. I'm saying they give the look of five guys on the line rather than 4. Do you think that they give that look, even though they love running nickel a lot? They do run nickel a lot. So what if they just gave, okay, you know what? You know, we got these 5 defensive backs. It's not really working out too well on the front line. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in an extra linebacker, and then we're going to have 4 defensive backs, and you guys got to take care of everything that comes your way just to stop the run. You think if the coverage was better, they would have done that already? Just throwing ideas out. Like, really, I'm just –
I mean, do they have the personnel? They didn't have the personnel, right, with the linebackers? You'd need extra linebacker out there?
Well, no,
you're taking a corner off?
I mean, if you want to just double up, because Hughes was a linebacker at one point. I know he's a defensive end now, but he was a linebacker at some point. So he has that athleticism. I'm saying that if you decide to go with a Mario Addison, Oliver, Jefferson, Murphy, and then Hughes.
I mean, you could almost do it. It's almost like the Giants NASCAR package that they used to run. It's similar to that.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just like I said, I'm just throwing out ideas. The fact of, okay, you know, how are you going to try to block that if we're manning up every gap at that point?
And then you can actually throw AJ Epinesa in there as well.
Yeah, I was saying. I mean, you could do a bunch of different things. I think that's what afforded you that ability last year was the fact that you would come out and, you would have the Swiss Army knife in Lorenzo Alexander, who used to play with his hand in the dirt at defensive tackle, and then stand up and then go on the end and then do a bunch of different things. You don't have that this year. So what you're doing defensively is starting to telegraph a lot of the things that you're doing, which makes the run defense plus, with injuries, Clayton's, point about the one technique. I definitely think that's hurting them the most. And you got guys that are banged up, they're not hitting the hole really hard because they're hurt, and they got guards meeting them 3 yards down the field. They got to shed those guys and try to get the ball carrier. So, can we remove Murphy from that lineup, Mario? Apex, I was just going off of the starters, man. I apologize.
Yeah, we get Murphy on any and everything. They do fine, too.
I can't wait to buy you a Murphy jersey. Can't wait.
If you want to send me a Trent Murphy jersey, I'll gladly do it. That man's a meme. Mario, that man's a meme, and I love myself some memes.
It'll be a Washington jersey. Don't worry.
Trent Murphy Washington jersey.
There you go.
I'm sure it's $10 somewhere.
Oh my god!
Well, fellas, it's getting late. It's getting late. This was I had fun watching this game today. I love watching some football where teams aren't just throwing it around. It's a pleasant change from time to time. But the Bills got out with a victory. They're 4-0 in the division. They have a stranglehold against this division, 4-0, 6-2, 8 games into the year. You only have to play the Patriots and the Dolphins the last 8 games of the year. And if you can sweep the division clean, 6 wins, man, that'd be impressive. First time they start 4-0 in the division since 1991. I am the only one on the screen that wasn't born yet, I think. But it was a great game today. So final thoughts. I'm going to get to our guests first, and then I'll close it up with Fred Kilmartin. Spence, final thoughts on this football game, and please tell all the people where they can find you and, hey, what they have to look forward to when they do.
Final thoughts is that we won. A win is a win. I need to be positive, so I'm not going to be negative. I'm very happy that my team won today, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we do against Seattle. It seems like, for the most part, we play to the talent that we're going up against. So I'm hoping that next week the Bills step up in a big way and we show that we belong in the conversations as one of the best teams in the league. And on Twitter and Instagram, you can find me at J Spence the King every Tuesday. The Code of Conduct comes out on Buffalo Rumblings Podcast Network. On Sundays, like today, Mookie Hawkins and myself, we do the Chop Up, which is like a post-game, I don't know what you want to call it, but we talk about the players' interviews and we kind of just, we just shoot it. So let's, if you have some time to join us at 7:15 every Sunday, and then like I said on Tuesdays, the code of conduct is live.
Mario Granata, you and Paul always got excellent work going on over there at Hashtag Sports. What's going on this week?
We try. We got a couple episodes coming out, obviously, after we see the free agent signings, and especially the trade deadline. We're gonna be releasing a video on that. We're gonna have our roundtable this Wednesday, as well as a hype video for Seattle versus Buffalo. Aside from that, you can find us on Twitter at #HTagSports and on Instagram at #HTagSports. We're going to be releasing our videos on YouTube. As far as the game today, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but those division games are always ugly. And this was a game that in the past against the New England Patriots, the Buffalo Bills usually would have lost a close game like this. They came out on top. They got a timely turnover. They're 4-0 in the division. They're 6-2 overall. Be happy about that. Buffalo Bills victory Monday is going to be very, very happy tomorrow. So just lay your head to the pillow of the fact that the Buffalo Bills were in a dogfight today, and they were able to come out on top. So that's all I got.
Oh yeah, Buckethead Fred, what's going on?
Yeah, I want to thank Spence and Mario for joining us this evening. It's an honor to have you guys on here. And yeah, Buffalo Bill fans, I mean, get used to it. Might see a lot of ugly games through the remainder of this season. So, but hey, first win against the Patriots at home since 2011, so I'll take it. So.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with all you guys more. The Bills beat the Patriots. It's a good day. I don't care what happened. The Bills beat the Patriots. It's happening. The dynasty is over. They're sitting at 2-6. They're not going to make the playoffs. It's 2-5. Okay, still they're in a hole, and they're below the Miami Dolphins at this point, and that says a lot. So I'm just happy. I'm happy this team is going in the right direction. But I will say this, given the competition and the strength of schedule on the second half of the season, it's going to be a lot more difficult than it was to start the year. And you're really going to find out what this football team is truly made of in these next 8 weeks. I want to thank Jay Spence, the king of the Code of Conduct and Buffalo Rumblings, for joining us. Mario Granata of Hashtag Sports, as always. It's a pleasure, my friend. I love working with both these gentlemen. If you haven't already, go find them on all the platforms. Go follow them wherever they have a page. They said it. I'll leave some links in the bottom in the description after the show. And be sure to follow the Cold Front Report on Twitter, Instagram, and like us on Facebook, and subscribe on YouTube. That's at Cold Front Report on Twitter, Cold Front Report _Bills News on Instagram, Cold Front Report Buffalo Bills News on Facebook, and on YouTube it is just Cold Front Report. If you'd like to find me, my personal account is at CFR Clayton on Twitter, and the same exact handle on Instagram at CFRClayton. Thank you all for tuning into the post-game show. I'll be going live Tuesday evening with Jeff Uvino for the Overtime Podcast. And, hey, thank you all for watching. This has been the post-game show. I hope you all have a safe and healthy evening. Hey, go Bills.
Go Bills.